Welcome to the official Lost podcast hosted by ABC.com. In today's edition, executive producers Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse take your fan questions and give us a tantalizing preview of this week's episode, Maternity Leave, which airs Wednesday, March 1st from 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern. First up, though, a special exclusive interview with actor Jorge Garcia, who plays the unlucky Hurley. While it's true that the producers discovered Jorge because of a guest starring role on Curb Your Enthusiasm, Jorge has been acting and acting out since he was a kid.
When I was a kid, and I remember seeing the movie Fiddler on the Roof, and my parents also took me to see Fiddler on the Roof at one point, and I would sing, like, If I Were a Rich Man Around the House a lot. I think that was kind of, there was definitely, there's also, if you look at old pictures of me, there's definitely, like, a need for attention in some of these pictures. And so, it probably started pretty early.
A little-known musical entitled Drabble was Jorge's big break in junior high.
Yeah, Drabble is this comic strip, and they made a musical out of it, which I was in when I was in junior high. And I played, I think my character's name was Bart, and I was essentially the villain on the show who was stealing the recipe for a secret sauce for this burger joint. And I had I had my one song, and the whole thing was one performance, the whole show. We only ran for one performance. And, but I kind of stole the show with that song, really got the audience going, and that was quite the thrill.
What was the song?
The song's called Power.
Can you sing a few bars?
Oh, wow, how'd it go? It was like, if you want to get somewhere in this life, you got to be strong. You got to be ruthless. You've got to have power. It's the most precious thing. It's a treasure that money can buy. I don't remember any of it.
With a voice like that, we weren't surprised to discover that Jorge, like his counterpart on Lost, is a huge music head.
I really love the kind of search for records, because a lot of that seems to have fallen by the wayside with, things like MTV and certain, big top 40 radio that have very specific set playlists. You kind of lose, like, the way people used to, like, find a record and get into it, play it, take it over to a friend's house, and the friend would buy the record and that kind of thing. I think now with a lot of new technology, there's a lot more search than there was now, because now there's a lot more access to music, like through the internet and stuff like that. So I'm always interested. Like when I was working at Borders, I would flip through the bins just to find an album cover that I didn't know or a band I'd never heard of, just to find out what they sounded like. Because if you don't have, like, the big marketing publicity machine behind you, there's a lot of bands that just show up and disappear with one album.
Here's what's in his heavy rotation.
Anthony and the Johnsons, and listening to Wolf Parade right now a lot. What else? Clap Your Hands, Say Yeah, and the New Strokes.
Next week, we continue our interview with Jorge. Now, though, we turn it over to executive producers Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse.
Hello, and welcome to yet another podcast. I'm Carlton Cuse.
And I'm Damon Lindelof.
Hello, Damon.
Hi, Carlton. And then the theme music that we never hear. I want my own theme song.
Brother.
After yours.
Now,
when you say I'm
the
Carlton,
ego's coming out now,
no,
isn't
I'm just
it?
saying,
Really,
when you
finally.
say I'm Carlton Cuse, there should be something kind of, regal and stentorian, kind of.
Trumpets.
And then when I go, and I'm Damon Lindelof, there should be, like, kind of a more goofy.
Like a little Mike Post
like
rock and roll riff.
Doodle-doo, kind of, I don't know.
Okay,
that's
well,
just a suggestion.
Chris, that's going to be up to you. Chris is our producer here.
Chris is the one person who sits with us as we do these podcasts, and we hope that he smiles and laughs as we say things. And that gives us some sense of whether or not we're being amusing, because that's really what this is all about. Because who cares about Lost? You just want Carlton and I to do shtick for 20 minutes.
Well, since we last spoke to you all, Bodie Miller has been a complete disaster, Damon.
Yes, that is. I am very disappointed in the Olympics. Although I'm kind of into speed skating, especially the short course. But that's just me.
I feel bad for Bodie. A little too much pressure, and we know a thing or two about pressure.
and a thing or two about snowboarding, Carlton.
And ice dancing.
You could
As
say
a
that
fact,
again.
Damon and I are going to try out for the same-sex ice dancing in the next in the Vancouver games.
Is there going to be same-sex ice dancing?
Well, there will be, yes, as soon as we get our proposal done.
I'm still getting over our rejection in the curling competition this year, but I don't want to talk about it.
So let's talk about
I do
one
want to
of
talk
them.
about one of them.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's so obviously we introduced Henry Gale,
Yes. Or that's what he said. That's what he said his name was anyway.
intentional Wizard of Oz reference.
Well, yes. Well, I mean, when we name characters on the show, it's definitely something that we do with a fair degree of thought and calculation. And for those of you who don't already know, Dorothy Gale is the infamous Dorothy of the Wizard of Oz, and she has an uncle and an aunt, Auntie M, who is very well known, but she also has an Uncle Henry, who is less well known. So he would be Henry Gale, and
Right.
And obviously our Henry on the show says he crashed in a balloon. So that could potentially also be an Oz reference if I were looking closely.
Do you think Vincent is an alias for Toto?
I do
Okay.
not. So obviously it's very interesting now. We have the Michael Emerson who plays Henry is a fantastic actor.
I think
and
it's pretty interesting.
It is. What, the alias thing? That
No.
Vincent could be Toto?
No, that Henry's in the hatch.
Oh yeah, I think it's interesting too, and actually one of the things that we love to do on the show is these arcs. And people always ask us, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what's going to happen next? What's the grand plan? And this sort of idea of having someone get captured, and the question as to whether or not he was an other, forcing us to sort of say, well, what is an other exactly? Isn't anybody who's on the island who wasn't in our plane crash by definition an other? And is there just one group of people on the island? What's going on here is sort of captured our imagination, certainly.
Yeah, and I think in a larger sense, even the title "One of Them," I think, sort of deals with the issue of sort of the judgments we make about people who we do not know. And Henry is a person we do not know, and he is treated in a specific way, based on fear and sort of where they are, kind of as a society at that moment. And I think that there were some parallels, I think, that made this story, maybe a little bit more topical than some of your other Lost episodes. But in a way, we sort of were engaged by that in the breaking and the writing of the episode.
I think what's also really cool about it is, people always ask us, when are we going to see society building? When are we going to see sort of like the sociological structures form? And one of the things is we kind of realize as we write the show, especially since they've only been there for about 2 months now at this time, that we don't really think it would be human nature to elect a leader and, society building stories, that we find by sort of putting these guys into situations of conflict, it forces them to make society decisions. So now we have law and order and justice. You have a prisoner, so how do you treat them? And and what is your concept of guilt? And who makes decisions? Is it one person or a committee of people, or all those things? And those are the stories that we're kind of going to be dealing with over the course of the next bunch of episodes.
Right, and what constitutes justice? I mean, and in a society where there is no defined set of laws. I mean, so and Henry will be a very big presence over the next few episodes, and I think that his the question of who exactly is Henry Gale is something that's going to be we're exploring in great detail over the next batch of episodes. And
right, and I think obviously on Lost we introduce characters on the show, and the audience has been conditioned to kind of think no one is what they seem to be, but we think that it's just as interesting potentially that you could find out a couple episodes from now that he's exactly who he says he is. But just the fact that our characters are in such a place of mistrust, what could happen as a result of of that. So
right.
Keep your eyes peeled, and we think that that's pretty cool. Also, kind of big shout outs to Naveen Andrews, who just did fantastic work in that episode, in addition to Michael Emerson and Clancy Brown, who made a great impression just in a couple scenes as Inman.
Who you may know as the guard from Shawshank Redemption.
He was also in Highlander. He had to cut people's heads off. And
yeah, he's a fantastic actor and someone who we actually were really dying to have on the show for a while, and it finally worked out that he was available, and we had a part that he wanted to do, and that was great. You know, there was also a cross in this episode, which we, as we like to do, we like to sort of show the interconnectedness of our various characters, and yes, the soldier was Kate's father, and in fact, the picture that he was holding was
Colonel
in fact
Austin, yes.
it was. Colonel Austin,
who will eventually become.
I don't think he was a colonel.
Man.
I don't think he was a full-on colonel. He was more like a sergeant. Colonel Austin was the $6 million man.
But yes, that picture was.
It was Evangeline.
The actual Evangeline Lilly at age 13.
She actually provided us with several choices, and we chose that one. So
she is just cute as a button.
That's what she really looked like at age 13. And the other big element in one of them that we should talk about, Damon, is the numbers counting down past 0.
Right. I don't know about you, Carlton, but I've been waiting for that to happen for quite some time now.
I think that
I'm a little frustrated.
I've been frustrated that it's taken so long to get to that, personally. But the those hieroglyphics.
Is that what you'd call them?
I would call them hieroglyphics. I would say they would be sort of, if you were to look up some Egyptian hieroglyphics, you might find something about it.
I only saw 4 of the hieroglyphics. It felt like one of them was still flipping around. So would I need to know what that symbol was in order to fully understand what the message is?
Well, you might, and it's probably a pretty good thing that Locke did not enter the code before that thing quit spinning.
I have to be honest with you, Carlton. I'm one of those people who thinks that if they don't push that button, nothing's going to happen. So,
well, I think then that's your opinion, and you should stick to it.
All right, I'm just saying. That's me.
I don't know if I would necessarily agree with you.
All right, I would also like to say, for the record, that I'd be pretty disappointed if that were the case after a whole season of it.
That'd be pretty
sucky.
Yeah, it's like
I'm just saying.
That's like snow globe.
One man's opinion.
Okay.
Moving
that's
on.
actually two men's opinions.
Who's the other one?
Me.
Oh, okay. You concur.
If we're going to be ice dancing partners, we got to get on the same page here, dude.
I want to play your theme song again. Can we? If we do the ice dance, will it be sort of more of a?
I'm thinking something with a Latin verb.
Okay, that's good.
So maternity leave. This is an episode that's coming up. Let's just move on.
I'm just saying, isn't Latin verb the title of your autobiography?
It will be. It will be, exactly.
Maternity leave is this week's episode, written by Matt Raggianti and Don Kelly, who have actually been writers' assistants on Lost since the very beginning.
For 2 years.
Which is awesome because, as television shows are written, your writers' assistants are in the room every day, working 15 hours a day, getting everything all the silly ideas that we throw out into these documents.
They sit there and they basically take notes, and we sit around in the room with all the writers and we hash out the stories, and they write it all down, literally a transcript of it. But then they have to actually kind of creatively go through and discern what are the things that we landed on, because for any given scene there may be 15 ideas.
Right. So, every year as the show gets written, we write a script about every 8 days. That's how fast the show gets written, and we have about 1 week off for Christmas break every year. But we can't actually just shut down. We can't stop writing. So some unlucky writer, unfortunately, gets stuck with writing the Christmas script, and that was Don and Matt this year, who had to forego their own vacation to.
One of them was in Costa Rica and the other was in France, so it wasn't quite so.
One of them was in Paris and the other was in Costa Rica, but they were writing.
They were writing.
So
it's not too let's not get too Charles Dickens here.
And what's very exciting about this episode, we think, is for all the guff we take about never answering any questions on the show, this is a story we've kind of
blah blah.
Sorry, this is a story we've kind of wanted to do for a long time, and this was the time to do it. And we are going to get another Claire flashback story, but we're going to do something that we've never done before on the show, which is her flashbacks are actually to an experience on the island that she has forgotten. So,
which would happen to be the time that went missing from her memory when she returned from being captured by Ethan.
Yes. So for those of you who have the DVDs, you might want to go back in time and watch Raised by Another again before you see this episode, because I think you'll find some cool parallels. And then Homecoming, which are sort of the two episodes on either side of Claire's missing time. And this sort of fills in the blanks there. obviously, what's kind of cool also about this episode is, as we saw from one of them, Rousseau's back in town.
Right.
She's kind of around. She brings this other to Saeed, so she thinks it's another. And basically, for those of you who have kind of forgotten, Rousseau is invested in these others for a very specific emotional reason, which is...
That's right. Her daughter was taken by the others as a baby and has been missing for 16 years, and her sort of mission, and existence on this island has really been driven by her desire to be reunited with her daughter, Alex.
Hey, wasn't there in the 11th episode, I think, this year, when they all run into the others and the bearded guy is being all mean and saying, "This is our island and I've got a beard and a hat and I'm angry." Right before all the torches went on, didn't he shout out Alex or something like that?
He shouted Alice.
Alice?
Alice.
Oh, okay.
Or was it Alec?
I don't know. It could have been Alex.
It might have been Alex.
That's been pointed out to me.
That has. Okay, well,
So,
that's...
interesting.
Well, that might be a connection, too. So maybe you'll meet Alex.
Maybe.
So we're trying to answer a few questions, but hey, there'll be other questions that'll come up and will be raised. So let's not, let's keep expectations low.
Yes, low. And
Very low.
We'll be seeing more of, Henry Gale. And
Yes.
what's also cool is, there's been a lot of kind of macho guys walking through jungle. In one of them, actually, there are no women in the show at all. And it was pointed out to me that in the story in the Hatch, other than Rousseau, and Saeed's backstory, which is all army dudes, and then Sawyer and Hurley tromping through the jungle. So that you're going to get a lot of girly action.
That's
this
right.
week.
Very
Unlike
heavy
Carlton.
estrogen level.
What? That's what you get for ice dancing.
You know what? Maybe there was some subliminal reason we only had guys in our episode, Damon.
Hey, Carlton, guess what it's time for?
Time for questions.
Yay.
Chris, cue the question music. Okay.
I'd like to start, Carlton, because as
my
we sort of
God, okay.
mentioned in reference to one of them, this is from Jedi X-File. The subject line is, "Sawyer sucks as a human."
Uh-huh.
Sawyer disgusts me, but he does make a good villain, though. However, never pair him up with Kate, ever. I swear if you guys do that, I am going to seriously boycott this show. I know you got a lot of Sawyer-Kate fans, but that just doesn't make any good sense to me. What these fans see is completely crazy to me. He is trying to kill a tree frog? What? You know this man is everything I am not. Force a good-looking woman to kiss him? I respect women and would never do that. Con people? I wouldn't either. Hurt an innocent woman who helped tend his wounds? Hell no. Kill animals? I so heart wildlife, it's not even funny. So Sawyer sucks as a human. Have him stay far away from Kate.
Well,
there's not really a question in there, but
I don't really even know where to begin.
The question
actually.
that I would ask is sort of the tree frog thing. One step too far for Sawyer.
The tree frog thing, it's a funny thing. You could pretty much have any, you can have a character do anything on the show except for harm an animal. That is sort of the movie world no. I mean, there's a famous story I think about the movie Cliffhanger with Sylvester Stallone, where he puts a tracking device on this rabbit, and these bad guys are chasing after it. And then apparently, so the story goes, in the first
John
cut,
Lithgow shoots the rabbit.
And
he never worked again.
But the test audience, that was it. The movie, they plummeted down, so they went out and they spent all this money to reshoot the scene where the rabbit lived, and then the scores, in the previews went way up. So hopefully we just really felt that it was really in Sawyer's character to kill that tree frog, but no actual tree frog was harmed in the making of the show. It was actually a special effects tree frog, and it, but we felt it was true to Sawyer's character. I mean, Sawyer is a guy who is, both good and bad, and I think that part of what we need to do on the show is show both sides of these characters. And in fact, they're not on this island by random circumstance. They're not on this island because they're nice people. They're on this island because there are things in the past of all these characters that are still being worked out in the circumstances of this show.
Good answer.
So other than that, I heart wildlife too.
Good. So do I.
Okay.
Great. I feel better about it.
Okay. So Damon.
Yes, Carlton.
So our Weed 2005 says, I was watching season 1 this weekend When Boone gets into the Beechcraft and got on the radio, he got someone on the radio. He said they were survivors of the oceanic flight. I'm not sure he heard correctly, but did the person on the other end say there are no survivors of oceanic flight 815? Should we just clear this up once and for all, or has it already been cleared up once and for all?
It's been fairly clear, and
All right.
obviously when you're answering the question to someone named R. Weed, it does require, I'm going to just talk a little slow. I know there are a lot of pretty colors in the show, but basically, if you watch The Other 48 Days, which is from Season 2, and you might not have gotten there yet, we actually see that Bernard has found a radio in one of the Dharma storage areas, and he is the one who is actually talking to Boone. When Boone broadcasts...
People already know all this. Listen, I'm going to just jump ahead to another question
Good,
here, which
yeah,
is more
thank
interesting.
God.
Damon and Carlton, what would you see in The Black Smoke by Booyah 319? What's hidden in your past, Damon? When will we get flashbacks from Damon and Carlton's lives?
I actually checked off the same question for you, Carlton. So, actually, in The Black Smoke, you would see my bar mitzvah. That would be pretty much, if the monster were to take on some sort of form, it would be a huge Torah.
Yeah.
For those of you not familiar with the Jewish religion, when you are 13 and forced to...
Don't explain what a bar mitzvah is. Okay, that's, I think, getting a little too micro here.
I'll just
bar
say-
mitzvah, everybody knows what a bar mitzvah is. If
I'll
they
just
don't,
say that
go
is-
to another website.
Yeah.
Go to the barmitzvah.com
The difference,
website.
yeah. So in the Black Smoke of Mr. Echo, he's beating somebody with a rock and climbing out of water. I am. It is my bar mitzvah. That's my.
I thought he was going to say he was going to be beating you
No,
with a rock.
that's
in the Black Smoke. Mr. Echo would be beating you with a rock.
My flashbacks, I don't think, would be terribly interesting. I've never killed anybody, to my knowledge. I've never been a con man. I'm not a doctor.
What's interesting is that, in fact, like our characters on our show, maybe we should tell the story for the podcast audience about our mysterious cross in the past. Can we do the short, abbreviated version of that?
I don't think we can without the visual aid, but let's tease it for a future podcast.
All right, that's a good story. But there was a cross that Damon and I had
yes,
many years before we
that would be a good
actually knew each other.
flashback before we knew each other, and then
Yeah.
we realized.
We found the cross.
And then we can actually post the photograph, and that'll be very exciting.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. That's a cool idea.
Because there's a photograph of our cross, but we just didn't realize it.
Yeah,
That's what's so exciting about it.
This is sort of like like sort of a trailer for an upcoming podcast. That's cool.
It is.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Carlton. I guess I have one more question for you about Locke and his ladies.
Excellent.
This is from Decradio Hour Fangirl 01. Hey, Damon Carlton, I was watching my Season 1 DVDs the other day and noticed something that didn't fit. In the episode Walkabout, Locke says that he has had his condition for 4 years and that the last 8 months with Helen was great. This is the woman that he's on the phone with.
Right.
But when we do see Helen in person in the episode Orientation, he isn't paraplegic. So are there actually 2 Helens? Thanks.
There are not 2 Helens per se. There is a real Helen, and then there is Locke's efforts to relive his relationship with Helen by having someone pretend to be Helen.
So the woman on the phone, kind of the one that he's having, quote unquote,
a phone relationship,
an illicit relationship with. He's just calling her Helen,
right?
But she's not the Helen that
we've seen in Flesh and Blood, Incarnate, played by Katie Sagal.
Well, what happened to that Helen?
Well, that's actually a very good question, Damon, and I think we should answer that in an upcoming episode.
Thank God.
All right, let me ask you just one final question myself, okay?
I wish you would.
And this is posted by Super Radish, a name that seems very appropriate given the highly evolved theorizing that Super Radish is doing. And I will just skip to this part of the of his theorizing and ask you, Damon, if I asked the following, if I asked if the following were anything to do with the island's purpose, could you provide a simple yes or no without giving too much away? 2012, the Venus Transit.
So I'm just answering
yes
or no?
/ the end of the Mayan Fourth Age, man, I mean, not comma, parentheses.
No.
How about Halion pole reversal?
No.
Indigo children, and then in parentheses, Walt.
No. Is Indigo a coloration?
I don't know. I don't want to expand on my theory in depth, as some of these concepts are based on unproven science.
Yeah, I should actually point out that Walt is African American and not indigo.
Okay.
Last I checked.
Well, okay. So I think that...
Not that there's anything wrong with indigo children. I'm sure they're lovely. I just have never seen one.
There are many interesting things in your theory here, but we have, I think, kind of definitively said that those things are actually not a part of our own mythological construct. So,
but for more about the Mayan Fourth Age, apparently our own Disney Corporation is producing Apocalypto, Mel Gibson's stunning adventure through wackiness.
Oh, if you look at the trailer that's online, and you actually
there's like an Easter egg in there.
Yeah, you can see Mel Gibson with his arm around the crazy people with like the white mud on their face.
They look crazy.
Well, actually, he looks crazy.
Yeah, he's got a big beard and.
But yeah, exciting. You just have to find those guys and then stop, and then you'll find the one frame where Mel has his arm around it. It's cool. We haven't done anything like that. We haven't done any like little single frame Easter eggs that would require that level of vigilance, have we?
We should see if we can get Mel to do one for us.
If Mel would do that, we would put that in the show.
I love
Absolutely.
Mel Gibson.
All right, well, thanks you guys. It's been fun as always, Damon.
Again, we apologize for all the reruns you're suffering through. It'll be over in probably about another 3 or 4 weeks, and then we've got a great run of episodes that are going to sort of close out season 2. And bear with us. Hopefully, it'll be worth the wait, and we appreciate you guys watching the show.
Excellent. All right, time to go to the ice rink. Bye.
Hurrah!
Thanks for joining us. Next time we'll have more with Jorge Garcia and another inquisitive session from the Lost writers. Remember, you can submit your own fan questions at lost.abc.com. Maternity Leave airs Wednesday, March 1st from 9 to 10 p.m. only on ABC.